Good day. Welcome to Washington State University's production of Quality Assurance Animal Care, a Youth Education Curriculum. Today, with the help of Oregon State University and the Ohio State University, we will take you through a new curriculum that was developed on a grant from the USDA. To help you today understand our curriculum and answer your questions about what our guest panelists will say, we have an 800 number that you can call in and ask your questions either live, or you can have the questions written down for you. You may call 1-800-390-7551, or you may fax in a question for our panelists at area code 509-335-9295. In the last 2 weeks, each state was sent a curriculum package from Ohio State University. In that package, the curriculum materials included a leader teacher guide, videotaped vignettes, a species learning lab kit. The specific species learning lab kit was the beef kit, and evaluation materials for youth, for fair people, and for volunteers. The curriculum is based on an experiential learning or discovery learning philosophy that helps youth learn how to explore, reflect on their exploration, and apply what they've learned to their life, their project, their next step that they are doing in their educational program. The curriculum is composed of 6 units. Each unit has a level for elementary youth and a level for high school youth. It has been specifically designed to be used by 4-H clubs and vocational agriculture school programs. The topics of the 6 units include producing quality product and animal well-being, housing and exhibiting animals, feeding, handling, health, and the public perception of animal agriculture. I'd like to introduce our panelists today with us. Jan Busboom to my left, WSU Extension Meat Specialist. Sherry Nichols, Extension Agent from the Ohio State University. Gene Smith, Extension Agent from WSU. In addition, in a few minutes, you will also meet Brad Jeffries, 4-H Youth Specialist from Oregon State University, and Jody Black, Extension Agent from the Ohio State University. By phone to answer your questions about health issues and nutrition issues will be Ruth Blywinkle from WSU Puyallup, who is our Extension Dairy Specialist. Jan, what is quality assurance and total quality management?
Well, Jerry, quality assurance is a program in which producers take steps to produce a wholesome product that meets or exceeds consumer expectations every time. Total quality management is a management system and a mindset that enables us to meet or exceed consumer expectations. In our youth program, we emphasize 3 total quality management principles. First, focusing on the consumer or keeping the end in mind. Second, identifying and utilizing our human, animal, and environmental resources so that we can efficiently produce a good product. And thirdly, improving constantly and forever. We're always trying to improve not only our product, but also ourselves. This brings up an important point in our program, actually, in that we not only emphasize the importance of producing a desirable food product, but we also emphasize the most important product, which is our youth.
What are some of the reasons that industry has been active in implementing quality assurance and animal care programs?
Well, one reason for implementing quality assurance programs is that we are currently not meeting consumer expectations. This costs the industry money, as was vividly illustrated by the National Beef Quality Audit, in which we showed that we were missing the consumer's desires by $280 per head. Pork and lamb quality audits have also shown that we've been losing money by not meeting consumer expectations. Clearly, producing too much fat is the thing that's been costing us the most money. However, we've also lost a lot of money due to injection site lesions, such as this one shown on the screen, which was caused by a long-acting antibiotic, and also by ones like this, which are caused by a clostridial vaccine. Another reason that the industry has been implementing quality assurance programs is because if they don't, the government will do it for them. And it is likely that a federally mandated program would be more inflexible and perhaps more ineffective than one developed locally. The third and most important reason for implementing quality assurance programs is that we are producing food, and consumers have a right to expect a safe, wholesome food supply. Producers must realize that animals will become food for a variety of people, and that would include children.
Why did we include animal care in our curriculum?
Well, consumers expect not only a safe, high-quality product, but they want that product to be produced humanely. Moreover, animal care often directly affects product quality. For example, bruising can be caused by improper handling of animals. Other examples include dark cutting beef, and this can be caused by prolonged stress of an animal or food deprivation. Stress can also increase problems with pale, soft, and exudative pork, or dark, firm, and dry pork.
Why do we need these programs? Why do we need quality assurance and animal care programs?
Well, particularly for youth, which is what this was developed for, first of all, adult producers can be influenced by our youth. In Washington, one of the main motivating factors for us developing the quality assurance program was that our pork quality assurance program had been very successful, in that over 70% of hogs in our state were being produced on farms certified at level 3 of the pork quality assurance program. But there was a large segment of producers, the youth, who were not being reached by our quality assurance program. And we realized that any producer, no matter how small, can affect the safety record of an entire industry. A second important reason is that show animals have a higher incidence of residue violations than the general population. And finally, livestock shows have a great deal of visibility, and therefore any deficiencies in quality assurance or animal care would certainly get a lot of publicity.
Jan, thank you for that rationale. Now we would like you to share with us Unit 1 of the curriculum. Unit 1 talks about attitudes and responsibilities towards animals and food production and animal well-being. Would you share that with us, please?
Sure. In Unit 1, Level 1, we emphasize that a livestock project carries with it responsibilities. Youth have a responsibility to portray themselves and their club in a positive fashion and to humanely produce a safe food product. We also emphasize developing a total quality management mindset, not only for their project, but also for the rest of their life. Again, the TQM principles we emphasize are having a consumer focus or keeping the end in mind, effectively using our resources, and improving constantly and forever. We also discuss the need for proper animal care. We try to communicate that consumers expect it and that animal care affects quality. We also define animal welfare and animal rights, and we evaluate some of the practices used to produce show animals. Some of the activities that we have in that unit include understanding beliefs about animals, in which we discuss what showing and selling an animal actually involves, such as the potential attachment that youth might develop with an animal and the fact that the animal will ultimately be slaughtered. This discussion includes input from older, more experienced members who would share the feelings they had when they sold their animals. In a second activity entitled Understanding Quality Interviews, youth define what they think of as quality, and then they interview consumers to find out their opinions about quality. The final activity in Unit 1, Level 1, is an animal care self-assessment, in which they analyze their own production practices, and then they look at the practices of others and evaluate how those might be perceived by the general public. In Level 2, which is the more advanced level of Unit 1, we expand on the topics that we covered in Level 1, and we also define who our consumers are. For example, for a livestock project, consumers are not only the people who consume the product, but the judge and the people in the audience are also consumers. We also emphasize the need for teamwork. Even though shows are competitive, there are many opportunities for working together. Some of the activities include an animal rights and personal beliefs activity in which we discuss the tape by Jeff Goodwin called The Heart of the Matter, and other activities are a hazard analysis, critical control point hazard hunt, and a TQM, team building to improve quality activity.
Thank you, Jan. I'd like to turn to Sherry. Sherry, what should youth know about handling animals?
It's very important that youth need to learn about animal handling and also animal behavior for a number of reasons. The more that a youth knows about animal behavior and how to handle that animal, the safer they are in handling their animal, the more confident they are. The more confident a child or a handler is, the more calm the animal is going to become. And that obviously creates a much safer situation for both the animal and the handler, and of course anyone else that happens to be in the area around the two of them. Several points that we need to think about as we think about handling animals include flight zones of animals, and in other words, the space around an animal in which that animal feels comfortable until something or someone invades that space. The balance points of animals, in other words, where a handler might stand, move forward or backward, encouraging that animal to either move forward or move backward. And of course the blind spots that an animal might have where that animal cannot see something, an object or a person approaching. So as we look at those and think about those, I would like to demonstrate one of the activities out of the project curriculum materials that helps teach the basic concept of a flight zone. So Jan, if you would help me here. I want Jan to just think about how he feels right now sitting here between Jerry and I, how comfortable he is. Continue to think about that, Jan, as I scoot closer to you, kind of move in on your territory, and I want you to think now how you feel.
Well, I'm a little less comfortable.
A little less comfortable. Do you feel a little bit more threatened with me this close?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. Where are you more comfortable with me?
That's fine.
About here. So this is kind of the space that Jan has determined for himself that he feels comfortable until someone invades that area. So this is an excellent activity, Jerry, that advisors and volunteers can use with their youth before they actually take them out to the barns and areas to work with their animals. They can sit down and think about how people feel in that space. And really, I think youth can relate to that maybe a little better than they can just going right out to the farm and working with animals. So that's one activity from that book. I'd also like to share a segment with our viewers today from Unit 2 that helps us to observe members handling their animals, and I want the viewers to really look at the ways they're handling their animals, the ways the handlers are using the blind spots, they're using the balance points and observing the animals' flight zones and making a very safe situation for the handlers and the animals as they do so.
Watch as they handle these animals. They stay out of the animals' blind spots. They are slow and deliberate as they make their movements. They anticipate where the animals might go and plan their actions ahead of time. And they use the natural flight response of the animals to turn them in the desired direction. Knowing what animals naturally like to do is of direct use to the young producer handling animals. Give your animal time to adapt. Because your animals don't see as well as you do, they need extra time to check out a new place. They may move their heads up and down. This is a way that animals try to see better, so give them enough room to do so. Limiting the animal's options and allowing the animal to go slowly is often the best way to get the animal to move where the handler wants.
Sherry, is there an issue of stress that affects animal handling?
There is, and in the second part of Unit 2, the curriculum materials and video do address the issues of stress. Several items that are addressed in Unit 2 include realizing that some stressors are good, and I think as we always talk about stress with animals, we right away think of disease and things that can cause bad stress or bad stressors, and that's not always true. There are good stressors that cause short-term stress, but in the long run, long-term health and safety of that animal are very necessary, and those might include something such as tail docking or castration of an animal. It also addresses how youth can help to identify those stressors with their own animals, and mostly that is done through observation. So we're encouraging youth to get out, to spend time with their animals on a daily basis, at least once a day, really observe and get to know their animals, learn what kinds of things do cause their animal stress and how their animal reacts to that stress. So they can recognize when the animal is at a show or in a different environment, gee, my animal is stressed, and I can think about what it is that's causing that. And then it also asks them to reflect on their own management practices, their own surroundings and environment at home that they might, as a youth manager of livestock, be able to change to make their animal more comfortable and to relieve some of that stress.
Thank you, Sherry. Jean, how does housing affect animal well-being?
Well, Jerry, it's very important to provide adequate space and shelter for our livestock to protect them from environmental stress to ensure their health and well-being. And Unit 3 is the housing unit, and it really focuses on and takes youth through some experiential learning activities that really get them to think about the necessity of providing adequate space and shelter for their animals to meet their basic facility needs. And Unit 1, Level 1, really focuses in on those basic housing needs or facility needs, and it actually goes through the different needs that each animal has in terms of facility and housing, which is shelter, adequate space, proper ventilation, good sanitation, adequate bedding, and then waste management. And those things are very necessary to provide a good, healthy environment for our animals. And then the activities associated with this particular Level 1 on housing has 3 different activities. The first one is a space requirement activity, the second one is a bedding and sanitation activity, and the third one is a waste management activity. And the space requirement activity is kind of a fun one for kids to do because it actually uses a small room or a walk-in closet to represent an overcrowded condition. And what we do is we have the youth take the temperature and an indication of the humidity of the room before we ask them to crowd into the room to get a feel for what the temperature and humidity changes will be in an overcrowded condition. And then we ask the youth, once they've gotten into the room, to try to perform some day-to-day activities such as walk around, sit down, lay down, maybe eat, and really sit and really analyze how that makes them feel and what kind of impact it has on the temperature and humidity of the room. And then once they've done that, reflect on how stress and overcrowded conditions might impact the health and well-being of the animal. Then we move into the sanitation and bedding activity, and it really demonstrates the principles of sanitation and then looks at the insulating and absorption properties of different bedding materials that might be used around livestock. And then the waste management activity is really used to demonstrate the principles of composting as a really effective way of dealing with the waste, animal waste and soiled bedding that accumulates with any livestock operation. Then we moved into Level 2, which really deals with temperatures, zones of comfort and stress. And when we're dealing with that particular issue, we have to have a really good understanding of what an animal's comfort zone is in terms of temperature. And to do that, we have to have a pretty good understanding of what effective environmental temperature is. And there are a number of factors that influence that, and that is air temperature, air movement, moisture, or humidity, or wet, muddy conditions, and the insulating properties of the bedding or the walls or the ceilings that surround the animal, and then the actual body condition and the body coat condition of the animal. And there's one activity that's associated with this particular level to, and that is the comfort zone activity. And this looks at using several fairly common things that you find around the house, which is a common thermometer to measure air temperature, a heat lamp to represent the sun, and a fan to represent air movement, and then a spray bottle to represent the effects of rain. And this is kind of a fun activity for kids to do because we actually set up the heat lamp where it's about 3 to 4 feet away from the youth and have them really sit and think about how they feel after about 4 or 5 minutes under the heat lamp, and then relate that to how an animal might feel in the middle of the summer without any shade or shelter protection from the sun. Another variation that you can do in that particular portion of the activity is use a dark cloth or a light cloth to see what impact coat color has on their comfort level. Actually, black or dark coat color absorbs the radiant heat very effectively, and so a dark colored animal might be, more comfortable in the wintertime but more uncomfortable in the summertime. And then we move into using the variable speed fan to look at the effect of airflow on comfort level and at different speeds. And you can use a piece of cardboard or a poster board to represent what shelter or a windbreak how it might influence the comfort level of the animal or the youth. And then we move into the impact of humidity, and we use the spray bottle to spray some moisture on an exposed body part such as the back of the hand, and really have the kids think about and reflect upon how moisture impacts the comfort level of their animals if they're not protected against wet and wind, and particularly in cold temperatures.
Gene, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Probably you're wondering how you can order the material and what's in the packet. The educational packet includes a curriculum guide, a videotape vignettes for each one of the 6 lessons, a species learning lab kits. There's a beef kit, a swine kit, a dairy kit, and a sheep kit, and evaluation materials for the youth and for fair superintendents. If you would like to obtain this packet, you can fax your request to 1-800-292-4919. And the address is up on your screen. It's the Ohio Agricultural Curriculum Materials Service at Ohio State University, Columbus, Ohio. Also, you may call your state 4-H office. Each state 4-H office received order forms to order the material. Now we'd like to share with you Unit 4, and Brad Jeffries, 4-H specialist, Oregon State University, will help us find out what's in Unit 4. And Brad, how can we teach youth about proper feeding for product quality?
Well, Jerry, we do that in this curriculum through Unit 4. And one of the unique aspects of this lesson here is that it recognizes the importance and value of what we put into our market animals and our dairy cattle in terms of nutrients, feedstuffs, and water quality. And specifically, the unit outlines 3 things that the young people will work on. One of those is how to determine what nutrients are in feeds by learning how to read feed labels. The second one is how animals will be healthier and the meat of higher quality when feed is changed very slowly in their ration, and of course stored properly and kept free of contaminants. The last major component of Unit 4 is instructing young people how animals will be healthier and more content when clean, good tasting water is provided to them. However, Jerry, I also really feel that maybe even of greater importance in this lesson here is what 4-H members learn about themselves as a result of moving through the different activities in this lesson. And one of the most important things that they learn is, of course, becoming more responsible for the well-being of their animal. That's one of the principal concepts of our whole unit of study here. They'll also learn that they and their animals have basic food needs and requirements. And that they'll also learn that feed for animals needs to be stored properly and also protected from contamination. One of the other things we're going to do here is, during this teleconference, is introduce a short clip of Unit 4, and this will help explain and illustrate feed labeling, use of medicated feeds, and sometimes the difficult concept of illustrating withholding times. So we'd like to go ahead and show that now, and that's roughly about 2 minutes.
By reading the labels on feed, you can get information that will help you talk to knowledgeable people about the ingredients and nutrients that will be best for your animals. Some special feeds have medications added to them to promote better growth, to help prevent disease, or to treat sick animals. We have two responsibilities when we use medicated feeds. First, we have to get the proper amount of medication into the animal. And second, we have to remove the medicine from the feed long enough before slaughter or milking so that no medication remains in the meat or milk consumed by our customers. This is called withholding time. Some medicated feeds are bought as a premix. That means that the bag of medication is mixed with a larger amount of feed. Other medicated feeds are meant to be used straight from the bag. Either way, federal law says that you must read and follow the directions on the label, exactly as the label says. You cannot use medicated feed differently than the label tells you to, and no one is allowed to change those directions. The label will tell you how many days must pass between the last feeding of medicated feed and the slaughter or sale of milk from the animal, the withholding time. Remember, when you are figuring out how many days of withholding time have passed, that means how many 24-hour periods have passed since the last feeding. So if you took away the medicated feed yesterday afternoon at 4, a full day of withholding hasn't happened until 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Brad, how would you wrap up the feeds and feeding unit?
Well, one of the unique aspects of Unit 4, Jerry, I think, is much like a lot of the other 6 lessons, are the activities that really help to emphasize the exploratory learning model that we discussed earlier in the teleconference here today. And through the activities like being able to read the feed labels, the moldy feed activity that's provided, and also the milk tasting example, I think it lends itself very well to getting through to some of the concepts that we want to instruct as a part of this curriculum.
Brad, thank you very much. Jody, we'd like to turn to you now. Unit 5 talks about health. What are the important health issues in producing a quality livestock product?
Some of the most important issues that need addressed are knowing how to read drug labels and how to use injectable products. And Unit 5 covers these kinds of animal health practices. Level 1 in Unit 5 teaches how to understand drug labels, and Level 2 teaches how to use injectable products. And if we move to the next clip, we can show how to produce a quality product. If we could see that clip now, it explains types of injections and how to give them, how to properly restrain an animal before administering medication, and 3, where on the animal's body a shot should be given. Those are the main things this clip will show us.
In this tape, we will show you the 2 more common types of injection: under the skin or subcutaneous, and intramuscular, into the muscle. With either type, the injection site should be cleaned before you start, and a sharp, straight needle of the right size should be selected. The subcutaneous injection is done by inserting the needle just under the skin and not into the muscle. A good way to do this is by pulling the skin away from the animal's body and inserting the needle into the tent of skin you have just made. You should use a needle an inch or less in length. A 16 or 18 gauge needle from half to 3/4 of an inch long is best. And good restraint will help you not miss and go into a muscle. Either side of the neck is a good place for these injections. In pigs, you can't tent the skin, so you must direct the needle diagonally under the skin but away from the muscle. Intramuscular injection is done by inserting the needle straight into the skin and deep into the muscle. A 16 or 18 gauge needle, about 1 to 1.5 inches long, is best. After the needle is inside the muscle, the injection is made. In most animals, the neck muscle is the best place for these injections, or the back of the thigh. In pigs, the neck muscle is the only site used.
Jody, how do we teach quality assurance in animal care in a hands-on fashion?
Well, I think we'd all agree that quality assurance is an important industry issue, but I believe making quality assurance a fun experiential learning process has been a real challenge. I don't think people just come running to a program that says we're going to teach about quality assurance. And showing livestock is fun. Taking your animal in the ring and showing them at the county fair is fun, but I often wonder, have we made learning fun? And we've produced through this grant materials that are excellent for hands-on learning that makes the learning fun. And the materials include several items on quality assurance. About half the items are on quality assurance, as well as several teaching materials that will complement most project books. Each state office has received a beef learning laboratory kit. All kits are packaged in a convenient carrying case like this red one you now see on your screen. Each kit includes an educator's curriculum guide and videotape. Each educator's guide includes background information with hands-on activities, discussion questions, and video segments. The educator's guide with accompanying video has 6 units divided into 2 levels that we've already discussed. The first level is designed to teach a basic level of understanding and is appropriate for all grade levels, while the second level contains concepts designed to teach the more advanced youth, like many of our FFA students in high school. Several laminated posters are included in each kit. These posters are in heavy lamination and have answer keys on the reverse side. This pink poster is a medication product label. Most posters contain laminated label tags. As you see here, they're white, as this one does. The yellow poster, which you'll see next, is a medication product insert. The insert contains more information than the product label. These types of things are important when learning about quality assurance. The medication bottle and syringe are useful demonstration tools for teaching how to read labels and giving injections. The purple animal skeleton poster is helpful in teaching where on the animal's body a shot should be given. The animal handling and management poster is useful in teaching the animal's flight zone, blind spot, and balance points. Youth use their creative problem-solving skills to demonstrate how to load animals in a manner that's safe for the livestock as well as the animal handler. All materials, including the parts identification poster, include a situation task statement that gives a real-life situation with a corresponding task. The blue structural correctness poster is a great tool for teaching feet and leg structural differences. Many judging team coaches have acknowledged that this is a good resource. The beef kit contains 10 laminated color photos of meat, 3 of which are shown here. Members learn to identify cuts of meat and the wholesale cut from which they originate. Next is the wholesale meat cut poster. Knowing which wholesale cuts are of high and low value aids youth in understanding where injections should and should not be given. 3 of the 10 laminated beef breed photos are shown now. Breed name labels and breed trait descriptions are also included. This aids youth in project selection by teaching the strengths and differences of various beef breeds. Copies of all masters used in the kit are included in the resource materials manual, which is read on the screen. This manual also contains guidelines for facilitators and scoring procedures. These materials, Jerry, along with the curriculum guide and the video, I strongly believe really enhance the exploratory learning process by encouraging youth to explore, reflect, and apply knowledge.
Thank you very much, Jody. Unit 6 deals with the public's perception of animal agriculture. At level 2 for elementary or younger youth, they learn how to care for their animals in a public setting, how to make an educational display that they can use for animal well-being. Level 2 deals with issues of how individuals in the community feel about quality assurance and animal care, the animal activists, the media, how we deal with those units. What we do in Unit 6 is teach the older kids through role play what various members of their community, how they feel about animal agriculture and how it's produced. We're going to show you a clip of a video vignette from Unit 6. And the clip shows you the youth producer and how the public puts a trust in the youth producer and the kinds of issues that John Doe citizen sees when they think of animal agriculture.
You never know when, as a 4-H or FFA member, if you're into that mode, that you may be the one that shows the grand champion, and that has happened. So all at once, I feel, as a farm broadcaster, you are exposed to the media spotlight, and almost immediately. And I would say to them as young people, as soon as that happens, you are going to get all kinds of questions. Is there a difference between turkeys and chicken? What is a barrel? What is a steer? I thought this was a cow. Why do you say hamburger when there's ham on the back end of a hog? Why do you call it hamburger? As a city person, I don't understand that. The leg of lamb, does that come from the front leg or the hind leg when you see a leg of lamb? So all at once, you'd better know something about your project, you'd better know something about agriculture, and you better know something about the food chain when I said the food chain from production to where it's on somebody's plate.
There are a few things that can ruin not only the youth producer, but the whole industry. News stories about cheating in the show ring or the use of illegal drugs or abusive handling methods make the consumer think that the whole industry may not be trustworthy. For that reason, all of the food animal industry associations have taken strong action to assure quality, food safety, and most of all, to show the consumer that all good producers believe in safe, legal, and humane methods.
The producer is responsible. Every person, from the cow-calf man to the backgrounder, if there is one, to the feed yard, to the trucker, the stockyards, anybody that handles that animal is responsible to produce the best product possible. And it takes a massive approach. Everybody needs to work together.
Industry programs in quality assurance and this program you are watching are designed to help good producers have all of the information necessary to make good decisions about food production.
If you have questions about the curriculum that we're showing today, we encourage you to call 1-800 390-7551. Or if you would prefer to fax us a question, you may fax us at 509-335-9295. While we're waiting for questions to come in, Jody, I would like to know, how is the issue of public trust being handled in Ohio?
Well, as I've already said, we've tried to make learning about quality assurance fun. And I believe that there's many families involved in 4-H and FFA livestock projects who have no intent of doing any wrong. They want to do the right thing. But because they're not familiar with withholding times or what a residue is, and maybe they don't understand drug labels, they might find themselves barred from a show. For example, there's no tranquilizer approved in the United States for a market animal. How many people know that? I didn't know that when I was in 4-H. And how many people innocently get to the county fair and their steer may act up and they give it a tranquilizer not knowing they're doing any harm to the food chain possibly. Again, let's say you get to the county fair and you've got a pig that gets lame, unloading them off the truck. And the next door neighbor says, "Hey, I got something to make that pig walk just fine." And you say, "Well, sure, that's really nice of you." And so they give the pig an anti-inflammatory drug, which will make it walk just fine. But most anti-inflammatory drugs those animals given those need to be withheld from slaughter for at least 2 to 3 days. And that usually isn't what happens immediately following a show. So that's how a lot of innocent families, I would say, could get in trouble by not knowing some of the basics about quality assurance. So at the Ohio State Fair, we've started skill-a-thons. It's really interview judging with hands-on types of things, and these include stations that are about parts of an animal, beef breeds, identifying cuts of meat, and mainly emphasize quality assurance. That's also one of the stations. And in 1993 at the Ohio State Fair, after completion of the beef skill-a-thon, more than 95% could identify where an injection should be given.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Jody. Brad, we would like to hear how your implementation plans are coming along in Oregon.
Okay, Jerry. This last spring, in fact, March of 1994, Don Hansen, the Extension veterinarian, and myself initially set out to introduce draft copies of the curriculum to our our county Extension faculty throughout the state of Oregon. And it was very well received by faculty in terms of how the materials were put together. And even though materials were in a draft stage at that time, they seemed to be very interested in working with volunteers locally at the county level in starting to incorporate the lesson contents into what 4-H volunteer leaders were already doing in the market animal program. What we also found was that after we introduced the initial draft curriculum, we were trying to pilot test particular units depending on the county agent's interest and the amount of expertise that volunteer leaders had. So we were individually sending out some units of study for counties to incorporate and kind of give a trial run at, so we could get some initial feedback from volunteers about what they thought about the curriculum, how it was laid out, how appropriate were the activities, that kind of thing there. And our initial feedback was very positive from a good majority of those counties that initially had a chance to use some of the draft curriculum units within the curriculum. What we've also found now that kind of spring and summer has passed, usually the very busy season for our extension faculty, is that they're in the mode now of scheduling leader trainings, Expo Saturdays, Super Saturday kind of concepts where we can bring all the volunteer leaders together for a day in the animal science area and run them through all 6 areas of study within the animal care and quality assurance program that we're talking about here today. And so we're, at this point in time, scheduling those throughout the state, and there seems to be a lot of interest on the part of extension faculty anyway to do that. And I think one of the other unique things about this is at least the training aspect, Jerry, is working, having people on the state 4-H staff and our county agents, involving them in teaching and working with our subject matter specialist on campus, our extension veterinarian, and getting us working together as a team and a group and getting this kind of information out there. So we're really excited about the potential of where this is going, and maybe more importantly, the interest that volunteers are expressing. in terms of the materials and how it's laid out. They really like the layout within their curriculum of the small triangles on the margins, and that way they really know that they're teaching the exploratory learning model with the the E and the R and those kind of connotations in the margins. So without getting too technical for our volunteers, they know that what they're teaching is sound educational philosophy.
Brad, thank you very much. For those of you that would like to order the material and were not able to catch the address or the fax number, the material of the educator's curriculum guide is included, the videotapes are included, the Species Learning Lab kit. You may order one or you may order all 4 Species Learning Lab kits and evaluation material, and you can order that either through your state office that has the order forms, or you can fax a request for an order form at 1-800-292-4919, 24 hours a day. Sherry, would you share with us the implementation process that's happening in Ohio at this time?
Sure, Jerry. In Ohio, we have had the advantage of having the learning laboratory kits for a couple of years, and so we have a number of counties using those very successfully in quite a number of different ways. One of those ways is with 4-H community clubs, where a county office has purchased a 4-H or FFA learning laboratory kit and has that available in part of their resource library right at the county extension office. Clubs are then welcome to come in and pick up those volunteer materials and utilize those with their club members at a club level and use it more as a teaching guide. We also have a lot of our county agents across the state, and as Jody mentioned, even at the Ohio State Fair, where we are utilizing them through the county fair programs. And we have a lot of agents who are using those as a skill-a-thon, as Jody mentioned, whereby we have stations set up where youth will come to the station. There will be one aspect of the learning laboratory kit set up with an adult facilitator sitting there. I think what's really unique and makes this learning education project fun is that those facilitators can help make it a fun and learning activity together. So when they come, they're kind of testing their own knowledge and skills on that particular kit item. But when they get stuck or they get hung up or they feel frustrated because they don't know what they feel they should know or thought they knew when they came, that adult facilitator can step in and say, well, let's think about this together. Let's think about how we can learn these meat cuts, and we can talk about bones in our arms and what kind of a bone do you have? Is that a flat bone or a round bone? And okay, let's look at these pictures of cuts of meat and let's think about that as it relates to this animal that we're talking about. And so we can learn, and that's a fun way to learn about that. And I think as we found through the county fairs that I've been involved with, that kind of learning sticks with a member much longer than reading it in the project book or even having the volunteers stand up and talk about it. So I think that's a real unique aspect of the learning laboratory kits and how we've used those in Ohio. Now the thing we're going to do during the next winter and spring is try to coordinate the total quality management program that we've talked about today. So we're going to be using the curriculum guides and the videotapes and supplementing with the livestock learning laboratory kits and encouraging our counties and agents to use those all together in Ohio.
Thank you. We've had 4 questions come in, and I'll just go ahead and read off the question and go ahead and answer from my point of view. And if others of the panel would like to add to it, please feel free. One of the questions is, are there scholarships to help pay for the kits? In discussions with volunteers that I've had, after they've seen the material and they've seen what's available, they've been very willing to pay for the materials, to have fundraiser so their club can have a copy of the kit. I think in most cases, clubs are one species clubs, so they may not want to order all 4 of the kits. When will a curriculum be ready? When is it available? It is ready right now. There's a copy in each one of the state offices. There is, the order forms are available through the state office. As soon as you fax in your request, you will have an order form sent to you, and as soon as you write your check, they will be happy to send you the curriculum, the Learning Lab kit. Why are not goats included? That's a good question. Initially, our grant was to deal with large animals, beef, sheep, swine, and dairy. However, as we progress through the curriculum, and as you see the video vignettes, I think, and my panelist is saying yes too, that's very appropriate to the Dairy Goat program. Ideas for implementation. If briefly, Jean, could you share how we're implementing in Washington, and maybe more specifically, how you're planning to implement in your counties that you're responsible for?
Okay. In Washington, the implementation has been relatively slow, and much like what has been happening in Washington, we had the original orientation meeting with livestock agents and leaders in Ellensburg about a year ago, and they actually did make suggestions in changing the curriculum, and we've incorporated those ideas, and one of those ideas was the advancement guide. And they also suggested making some slight changes in some of the activities to make them a little more educational and easier for somebody that may not have a real broad background in animal sciences to use the curriculum. So we've made it a little user-friendlier, as a result of the orientation. And I think in my own county, how I'm planning on implementing this particular curriculum is I am sitting down with all of the players in the local bi-county fair, which includes all of the youth groups, which includes 4-H, FFA, and then the Junior Livestock Association members, with the fair personnel, and setting up procedure and how we want to certify the eligibility of kids to show and participate in the fair and the market stock sale.
Thank you, Jean. Jan, from your perspective in implementing the program, how have fairs reacted to quality assurance in animal care?
Well, we've involved the fairs from the very beginning in Washington and Oregon, and they've been very enthusiastic because it gives them a way to show that they're being proactive in making sure that the animals are produced humanely and that we have a safe product when we're done. And of course, the sales committees are also very positive about the program because it gives them a chance to make the animals they're trying to sell more attractive to the packers who are flooring many of these sales. We have other groups that are very interested in the program and very important, I think, in implementing the program, like our judges, because of course judges influence thousands of youth and people who watch shows by what they do in the show ring. And so it's important that our judges are educated so that they reinforce, or at least don't contradict, the principles that are being taught in our quality assurance and animal care program. The packing industry is also a very important segment, and in many areas they've very much encouraged the implementation of the program because they won't buy the animals unless there's been an animal care program in place.
Where does our program go from here? Where does quality assurance and animal care programming go from this curriculum?
Well, the first thing I want to see is to see the curriculum implemented widely, because I think it's very, very important. But in the future, I think that quality assurance and animal care programs will include segments on other areas of food safety. For example, if and when some control levels at the farm level for controlling pathogenic bacteria such as E. coli are developed or identified, I think things like that would certainly be added to our curriculum.
Okay, thank you. An answer to one of our questions just was passed to me, and I think it's a good answer, and if others have an answer to how do clubs fund purchasing the curriculum, many industry groups may be able to supplement the cost of the kits. They can use their checkoff dollars maybe to support and promote teaching quality assurance and animal care. And it's a benefit to the whole industry, the youth as well as the adult animal production industry. So I think there are many opportunities out there for us to have the material paid for. And many of our viewers might be wondering, what is the actual cost of the material if you do not have available right now a copy of the order form? If you order one kit, example the beef kit that we showed you this morning, in that kit comes the materials that Jody showed you, also comes the video, and the complete curriculum guide that's set up in a lesson plan format. And for that total package is $150. If you want to order more than one kit, let's say you would want to order all 4 of the kits, one for dairy, one for beef, one for sheep, and one for swine, the total package until May is $500. And I would suggest that a county might want to purchase a complete set, and I think it would behoove a local club to have the set that speaks to their particular species. If you're feeling strapped or don't feel you can raise the money, you can purchase a copy of the curriculum and the video for $25. But we strongly recommend the Learning Lab kit because it's so much an important way of teaching kids in a hands-on, experiential fashion. Are there any other issues that we have missed today that we should pick up here as we're closing our program?
Jerry, I might just add that as we look at the total program that we've talked about today, that it certainly is a wonderful way to teach concepts of the livestock industry and livestock handling and management, everything that goes along with the 4-H or Junior Fair Livestock Program to our members that adds to and complements the showing experience. I think that many of our members, our fairs, our county agents and all do a wonderful job of planning and conducting county fairs and junior fair livestock shows. But I think maybe where we're falling short is making sure that we're doing the educational part to go along with that, and as Jody said, making that fun and just as interesting and just as rewarding as going into that show ring with that animal. And this is just a wonderful way to supplement that show ring experience and get those members to really relate to the total picture of the livestock industry.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, panelists, and thank our viewers for watching today.